Have you felt the stirrings recently? The inclinations that something in your life just isn't quite sitting well anymore and it's time for change. Usually, this comes up as not feeling like yourself. And maybe you don't even know what feeling like yourself means. You just know that the conversations that you're having with the people in your life aren't quite resonating anymore, that you're feeling stifled, that there are aspects of your life that just feel off. And it doesn't necessarily mean that your entire world needs to change. It doesn't mean that you need to drop your entire life and change careers and change states of where you're physically living. But it does mean that it is time to figure out what your values are, who you are, and how you can express yourself more authentically. Hi, my name's Tanisha. I'm a transformational facilitator, and if you're new here, I welcome you and I see you. I have spent many years both on a journey with myself and with the people that I've encountered in my life to help them and myself figure out how to step into these aspects of yourself, to get rid of the stories and the limiting beliefs and all of these things, because as we get older, as we become more mature, whether that's in age or any other aspect that you can define as maturity, you start to realize that maybe you've been a chameleon all this time. Maybe you've had these core wounds growing up that told you that you were unlovable, that told you that you weren't good enough unless you were providing for somebody else. Your worth was tied to what you could do for other people, to how you made them feel. And as such, you're not receiving the things that you need. Your cup, so to speak, is running on empty, and you've spent a lot of time and energy trying to fill it yourself, and under the impression that you're broken and that you're just not good enough and that you need to keep doing all of these things. And I'm here to ask you to pause. So together right now, let's take a big breath. Maybe put your hand on your heart, wherever feels good on your body. Maybe give yourself a hug. Just take a breath in through the nose. It is not as dire as it seems, but it does need to shift. Things aren't working anymore, and that is okay. That does not make you a bad person. That does not make you broken. That does not make you too needy. It just means that part of you, and you don't even need to change. I think that's where a lot of misconception comes in, where it's like, I'm going to change my whole look. I'm going to change my whole personality and try this new version of me on. It's not so much about changing who you are and more about chipping away at the things in your life that have caused these stories and these emotions and these triggers and reactions. And so we're just going to take those away and we're going to find that peace underneath. If you think about, and I know that some people have really had a difficult experience in their life in which they maybe experienced trauma or emotional dysregulation and negative messaging from an extremely young age, maybe as far back as they can remember, if they even remember their childhood. So we're just going to take away those things that have been put onto us, our defense mechanisms, these things, especially if you experienced adverse childhood experiences in which you've had to put up these walls and build this persona in order to stay safe. This place here with me, with the others in this community that we are building and co-creating as a collective of people who resonate. This is a place for authenticity. I see a lot of creators and coaches and facilitators who they build this persona of perfection, and while it's lovely and I don't hold that against them in the slightest, it does create some unrealistic expectations. It creates some situations in which we, whether you are a woman or a man or anything in between, we might look at those people and their perceived perfections and their Instagrams that have just the right lighting, and we can very easily hold that against ourselves. So I am here in my rawness, in my authenticity, with wet hair because I just showered, to say, this is a place of safety. This is a place where we can come together and chat and be vulnerable, because I love Bessel van der Kolk has a saying, and he says, healing happens in the presence of an empathetic witness. I am here to witness you, and I hope you have other people in your personal physical life who can witness you as well. And if you're not sure about that, then these are the tiny steps that you can take to become more visible. You are incredible, just as you are. So, who was it? Michelangelo, I think it was, when he was asked about how he carves his stone statues like David. He said, the art is already there. I just have to take away the bits and find it. You are already there. You are already whole. You are already perfect. And finding those bits and pieces that make you, you, without the identities. You are not, while you can physically hold roles, that does not make you a mother. That does not make you a coworker. That does not make you a wife, or, this list that goes on and on of all of the ways we define ourselves. We hold these aspects, but we also hold every other aspect. And it's just figuring out which values we align to and how to present those. At one point, Mother Teresa decided to, I think she went to like a monastery, and they were asked, why did you come here? Because Mother Teresa is this beautiful, giving, loving person. And she said, I saw the Hitler inside of myself. And I'm just gonna let that sink in for a minute. I saw the Hitler inside of myself. We all have every aspect. You can't identify something that doesn't already reside in you, whether it's just this tiny little seed, this little piece of bird seed that's so, so small, or this giant oak tree. We carry everything, and it's just a matter of what we feed. There is a lot of uncertainty and fear and hurt in the entire world right now. And I don't say that lightly. And I personally don't believe in this spiritual bypassing that I see a lot of, in which we're, thinking about all love and light and completely ignoring all of our heavier emotions and not focusing on the bad and just kind of keeping our blinders on. While it is incredibly beautiful and very valuable to keep yourself in a higher vibration, to keep yourself in a place where, and this is, I think, the difference between spiritual bypassing and how I work, where you're keeping your heart open. Keeping yourself in a state where you can acknowledge the heaviness and say, I'm going to hold this, I'm going to hold space for this difficulty, for this struggle, for this pain, whether you're experiencing it for yourself or whether somebody in your circle is experiencing it. That doesn't mean you have to take it on if it's not yours. That just means you're going to witness it, you're going to validate it, and then you can say, in order to help the collective, in order to help the whole, my children, my relationship, it is imperative. I'm never going to say what you need to do, okay? So take everything with a grain of salt. If I say something that you really love, I am so happy. If I say something that you don't quite resonate with, that's valuable too. That is so, so valid. So taking and understanding that sometimes the best thing that you can do, sometimes the only thing that you can do is say, I'm going to keep my heart open and I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to see the areas in which I am not projecting into the world, where I am not co-creating the life that I want, where I'm ignoring other people's struggle, where I'm ignoring other people's emotions, where I'm exhibiting toxic traits. And as you figure out, and that doesn't, this, okay, this doesn't mean that you're digging up constantly. I think that's, and again, I will say this a million times, therapy, super valuable, super valid. I am not a therapist. I have gone to therapy. I think it's a wonderful tool. But I often see or hear stories that when you go to therapy, that in order to desensitize yourself from whatever trauma you've experienced, and trauma is not what happens to us, trauma is how our system responds and whether or not we can come back to a state of regulation and resilience. So in therapy, I witness a lot of people who have gone because they've experienced trauma and they want to get past that, whether they're having flashbacks or whatever the case might be. And with the best of intentions, the therapist's mode to attack this, to help them be more resilient, is to desensitize them by bringing it back up, by repeatedly mentally experiencing it in order for it to no longer hold value. And while that works for some people, it can also be very triggering. It can also be damaging. It can also cause sometimes more harm than good. Sometimes it takes a really long time, and that's painful. And while healing can be a challenge, while it can bring stuff up, I don't personally believe that you have to sit in struggle and essentially re-traumatize yourself, because our brains, our neural pathways, and our networks and our emotional body cannot differentiate the difference between a current physical stress and something that happened in the past. It cannot differentiate a future or potential stress that could cause us harm. Even if you think about having a conversation with a loved one that you think might be challenging, your body is still responding. Your emotions and the chemicals within you are still responding, even if it hasn't happened. So there are different ways to go about that, and that's the way I work. Working with the body, understanding the fascia and the connective tissue, and the fact that we are liquid, we are mostly water, and water stores memory, and the connective tissue can hold on to the chemicals of an emotion, and sometimes they don't have a name. Sometimes those emotions don't have a specific memory, but they are still within our bodies. So working with the body and releasing those emotions through somatics, understanding our energy system, whether that be through the chakras or our spiritual system, however that looks for you, understanding that we have programs in our system, in our body, in our awareness, whether that's our physical body, our mental, emotional, energetic bodies, that need to be shifted. Sometimes they just need to be cleared. It's like taking, and I found this really interesting image. We have beavers in a pond near me, and it's really fascinating to see how beavers can affect an entire ecosystem with a dam. So sometimes those dams are valuable. Other times, those sticks and that dam needs to be removed or shifted in order for things to flow more effectively. It is not about being all love and light all the time. We are human, we are going to have emotions, and we are meant to have emotions. The more we can regulate, the more we can say, this is what I'm experiencing, not what I am. This is what I'm experiencing in this moment. This is what I'm feeling in this moment. What is true? Why is it there? Explore it with curiosity. See what needs to shift. Is this a story that you believe, or is it something that's been put onto you? You have more control over your life than many people realize. Sometimes we get into a situation where we have a limited number of choices. The fact is that you still have a choice. You might not like the consequences or what happens from that choice. Maybe the choice is, you can take this promotion and have to work a ton, or you can stay where you are at your current job and be struggling a little bit financially. You always have a choice, and it's just about figuring out what you want to experience, what's more in alignment, what situations the pros outweigh the cons, how to be grateful for the situations that you have, because at the end of the day, something that I personally like to remember is that we get to do this. And I know that can seem simple or kind of silly to a degree, but I get to experience struggle. And that's going to build my character, that's going to build my resilience, that's going to grow my experiences, so that if I handle something or come upon something later in my life that is similar or even potentially different, I can handle it. I get to learn from my past. I get to figure out the ways that every moment that I have lived thus far has helped me. Even the moments that were hard, even the moments that I sat there and I said, why me? Why am I experiencing this? What have I done? Sometimes you didn't do anything, especially with experiences when you were little. Sometimes you didn't do anything. Sometimes it was the experiences of our caretakers that caused them to respond. There we go. That caused them to respond in a way that wasn't necessarily productive, empathetic, loving, beneficial. And then we can take that and say, I don't want to perpetuate that. I'm going to learn from these experiences, have empathy and forgiveness and understanding for the person who wronged me, and find out how I, with my values and alignment, want to co-create with the world. How do I want to treat other people, other animals, nature? So, in short, I like to use a lot of tools. While I am a highly spiritual person, I work with energy through Reiki. I love shamanism as I dive deeper into that and working with nature and a lot of witchiness. There are so many practices that are valuable. And wow, that's a loud truck. And as we build our toolkit, we can figure out how we want to express ourselves. At the end of the day, that's all we can do. And sometimes that means we're going to lose people. Sometimes change can be really scary because it's what we know. Even if what we know is emotionally harming us, sometimes physically harming us, even if what we know isn't what we want to experience, we still know it. So for our systems, for our nervous system to go experience something else, to go out on a limb and say, this could or could not work, that's still scary. And that's okay. I had an experience the other day where I realized that even in stepping into alignment, you can experience grief. You can experience grief for the things that you're leaving behind, the areas of your life that you have built this foundation where you thought it was what should be. Maybe that's, you thought you should be a doctor. Maybe you thought that you should live in this place, or you should have this relationships. You know, there's so many areas where we're shooting all over ourselves. And you can experience grief. But that doesn't mean that some part of you, no matter how small, this little flame inside of you can be grateful, can realize that you said the thing. You said the thing that's been on your heart and it wasn't well received, but whether that shifts your entire reality or shifts just a little bit, something has changed. You got to a point where you said, I can't do this anymore, or I won't do this anymore. And I hope you're at the point that it's a won't, not a can't. But if you say, I won't do this anymore, I need to be able to express myself. I need to figure out who I am outside of being a mother, who I am outside of being a partner, who I am outside of this job, or outside of these responsibilities that I have. You are not alone. You are not broken. You just want to shift. So if you are ready to shift, to go back, to dig under the mud and find out what is there, to find out where that beautiful light is within yourself, and start expressing it into the world without hours and hours of practice, without crystals that you need to spend $1 million on, without, you know, all of this extra superfluous stuff. Just getting to the core with truth and simplicity, because I'm a mom, I get it. Time is short for yourself. So finding ways to take care of yourself, to show up as yourself, is so valuable. So if you're ready to do that, if you're ready to take affirmative action, I really hope that you follow along and that I can provide some assistance on your journey, that I am here to witness you. And if there is a specific request that you have to talk about, I have a whole list of things that I am prepared to bring to you. Because in my world, in my belief system, it is always about giving more than you take, leaving a situation or a person off better than when you found it. And so I am here to bring you value. But if there is something specific that you need, let me know down below. And I have a resource if you would like it, just a quick alignment check-in, something that you can do to kind of get a temperature check on where you are in life. Sometimes we think that we're struggling financially, and that's what our main focus needs to be, but it's actually this other area of life that's putting a block on our finances. So if you'd like a resource to take a quick temperature check on where you are currently, how you're feeling about the 8 key areas of life that I've found that really impact us the most strongly, and a brief somatic practice to just start getting in touch with your body again and clearing out some of those stagnant emotions, then there will be a link below for that. So I am sending you love and light and blessings for your day, and I hope that this brings you a little lightness and a semblance of possibility.